Juneteenth National Holiday, written, produced, and directed by Reverend Dr. Dikki-Jo Mullen. In this video, Reverend Dr. Mullen discusses the importance of recognizing the Emancipation Proclamation through to the establishment of Juneteenth National Holiday. She explores the astrological implications of the Emancipation Proclamation and Juneteenth holiday recognized by President Biden in 2021. As part of her presentation, Reverend Dr. Mullen includes important historical facts associated with the events leading up to the Emancipation Proclamation and on along to recognizing it as the Juneteenth national holiday.
Hello, I'm astrologer and paranormal investigator Dikki-Jo Mullen, coming to you from downtown Orlando, Florida, with a different type of astrology. The wonderful thing about astrology is that it's so vast and cosmic. There are so many applications, and the astrology of politics and places is called mundane astrology. Not mundane as in boring, but mundane as detached a little bit from the human interest and day-to-day astrology. This is a special look at the astrology of a holiday, or different holidays, say Mother's Day being a Taurus holiday, Valentine's Day, Halloween. They all have astrological implications. Our newest federal holiday is the Juneteenth holiday. That's celebrated every June 19th, and it commemorates the Emancipation Proclamation, the day that the slaves were finally freed. And the Juneteenth is when they found out they were freed, which was 2 years or so later, some places even longer than that. Thinking of the Juneteenth holiday and thinking of the commemoration here, let's look a little bit at this horoscope. The first horoscope that I thought would be interesting to look at to see how this holiday, which commemorates freedom and is becoming, with demonstrations, celebrations, more and more of an important holiday. It's the first new federal holiday we've had since Martin Luther King Day was established back in, let me see, that was 1983. So this is a really important event. This is June 19th of 1865, and I used a 12 noon time period because we don't have an exact time. And that was the nearest city was Houston, Texas. And that's when a group of Union soldiers arrived to announce that the Civil War was over. It had been over for almost 2 years. Isn't that amazing? In these days of instant messages, when you think of how long it took for that group of slaves to be notified that they were free. Also, there were other smaller and lesser events of notification in Delaware and Kentucky and other borderline states. But the Juneteenth is a corruption of June 19th. And the title Juneteenth really caught on in the early 1900s. And we're both from the 1890s to the very early 1900s. And the Juneteenth was just kind of a day that was an easy sort of a way to describe June 19th. Looking at the June 19th, 1865 horoscope, the sun in Gemini is conjunct Uranus in Gemini. Uranus is the planet of freedom. The conjunction is when planets or luminaries being the sun and moon, are less than 10 degrees apart. We have a 28, 29 degree conjunction with the sun and Uranus. It's very tight. And this is all about freedom. That's a very strong horoscope, and it's likely to prevail, aside from the fact that, a little more about this later, but it was not celebrated in the Trump White House recently, and in fact was included with a group of holidays that President Trump is going to try to annihilate by getting them, well, not declared holidays anymore because he says they're non-working holidays. I say to him, well, we'll see what happens, but my prediction is he won't succeed with this. The Sun-Uranus conjunction is so strong. That 28th to 29th degree of Gemini aligns with the fixed star Betelgeuse, which represents honor, preferment, riches, and successes in anything that involves martial arts. So it looks as if the holiday's strong enough in its influence to prevail. Each degree of the zodiac has a couple of different symbols that are established that describe the specifics of the 360 degrees of the zodiac. Like every circle, the zodiacal circle has 360 degrees. The one that lines up with Juneteenth reads, "Sky filled with clouds, a flight of blackbirds struggling against the wind." The sky filled with clouds would be all the opposition, of course, to the Juneteenth and the Emancipation Proclamation, which ended in the Civil War and so forth. And then the birds, the blackbirds struggling against the wind, represent the different ethnic groups that struggled for freedom. And as Harriet Tubman, a famous abolitionist, said, no one who is ever a slave would want to go back to being a slave again. I'm a Cancer and always tear up thinking about that. And looking at the horoscope further, we have a Taurus moon. The moon is the general public in a mundane chart. Taurus is the sign of the moon's exaltation, not its rulership, but its exaltation. It is conjunct both Venus and Pluto in Taurus. That is a very, very strong conjunction for being down to earth, realistic, organized, and transformative. Mercury, the planet of communication, is in Gemini. There's been a lot of information about the Juneteenth holiday and a lot of history about it, and information is coming up, which is typical of the Gemini influence. The planet Jupiter, the planet of growth, is in its own sign of Sagittarius, and this represents expansion, growth, and again, it's freedom and the intellectual and education. And of course, education being made available to the African American people was very much a part of the results of the Emancipation Proclamation and the deeper message of Juneteenth. Neptune, the spiritual planet, is in Aries in this June 19th, 1865 chart. And the planet Saturn is in Libra. Libra is the sign of justice. It represents equality, liberty, and justice for all. That's the Libra ascendant in the United States national horoscope. We the people. All of those phrases which come from the Constitution are there. And this Libra Saturn is conjunct the strong node, the North Moon node in the birth chart. Getting back to Neptune and Aries, that represents freedom in religion and spirituality. And of course, the establishment of African American churches and other religions that go back to the continent of Africa that are pre-Christian. All of those tie in with the Neptune and Aries in this chart. The Aries influence in the Neptune and Aries and the Jupiter in Sagittarius are trine Mars in Leo, another fire sign. There's a grand trine in the three fire signs: Leo, Mars, Sagittarius, Jupiter, Neptune, Aries in this chart. That is very strong for being dynamic, visible, and very much a significant event. The 13th Amendment was the amendment that Juneteenth is related to, and that establishes the absence of slavery and freedom. It was ratified by the legislature in early 1865, even though the Emancipation was signed in 1863. So that whole time period has some really interesting astrological correlations for those of you who want to do more research into mundane astrology. The next really significant chart that I wanted to look at today is when Juneteenth was established officially as a federal holiday. And that just occurred recently. That was on June 17th, 2 days before the 19th in 2021. And I have a 12 p.m. in Washington, D.C. horoscope here. This Juneteenth holiday chart also has the sign of Gemini prominent. Mercury and the Sun, the north node of the moon, are conjunct, which shows a lot of publicity, a lot of interest around this. And Mars is in Leo. This is very interesting because it's a Mars return. Mars was also in Leo in the first chart, the 1865 chart. So that is extremely significant. Uranus, the planet of change, is in Taurus, and that supports the Taurus stellium that I mentioned, the Moon, Pluto, and Venus in the first chart. And then we have Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn represents struggle. It represents underprivileged people. And in Aquarius, it does indicate the ongoing struggle for freedom and overcoming what they called Jim Crow laws. Those were laws that were established after the Civil War in order to control and create a kind of a slave environment for the African American people and other ethnic groups. Also, Native American Indians were affected by those. And this June 17th chart, when the holiday was officially born, Saturn in Aquarius, I thought was really significant as far as finally honoring and overcoming the last vestiges of that. Jupiter is in Pisces, which is a spiritual sign, indicating there's a lot of prayer, a lot of spirituality, symbolism connected to Juneteenth. The moon is in Virgo, which indicates details and historic information can be very much a part of this. The number 13, if you do astronumerology, is associated to coincidences and very major events that can really change things. And so the overall tenure here is interesting. I have a painting that I did in the Daniel Boone National Forest, which you can see in Kentucky. And as I was painting that, it's an original watercolor. I was thinking of how Kentucky and Delaware, along with Texas in 1865, were the last places where the last enslaved people found they were free. I keep having visions of the reactions and everything. They're very strong. And those of you who are into mediumship might feel it because those spirits are very much earthbound and very much with us. Mediumship, astrology, the tarot, palmistry, dream interpretation, all of it is a part of the greater whole, because I know we mostly do emphasize my favorite subject, the study of the stars, astrology. Revel in your freedom and keep celebrating Juneteenth in your own way. I'm Dikki-Jo, astrologer and parapsychologist in Orlando, Florida.
Thank you for watching the video. Reverend Dr. Dikki-Jo Mullen has been gifted with several psychic learning styles that she has developed over her lifetime. Each of us has been gifted with innate psychic learning styles as well that we may choose to develop. Reverend Dr. Dikki-Jo Mullen is an astrologer, psychic, and parapsychologist. She provides astrology, psychic, rune, and tarot card readings. She provides face-to-face and Zoom readings and seances. She offers webinars, face-to-face individual and group sessions as well. Here are Dr. Mullen's social media sites. Her email recently changed. She offers inspirational insights on her WordPress site. She has more than 200 related videos on her YouTube channel, and also maintains a Facebook page. Reverend Dr. Dikki-Jo notes that use of the internet enhances the psychic energy of her work. She observes that this is a result of the fusion of her earthbound energy, her psychic energy, and internet energy working together. She encourages you to explore and develop your innate psychic learning styles.